This is Andi Purewal for Boxing Social in association with Betfred, and I'm out here in Las Vegas, and I'm delighted to be joined by trainer Ben Davison. Ben, it's potentially the biggest fight that you've been involved with on Saturday night, an undisputed bout between your charge, Josh Taylor versus Jose Ramirez. But firstly, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. You?
I'm all good, thank you. I appreciate you inviting me up to the house today to catch up with yourself, Josh, and the team. Straight into it, out here, Las Vegas. How's it felt to be able to get away from the UK and get Josh out here a few weeks ahead of his fight? And I just said to him, look, to have some form of normality effectively heading into what is the biggest fight of his career.
Yeah, of course, coming and becoming acclimatised is a key part of preparation, and that's what everything's about, to make sure that the performance comes on the night, preparation, and Josh has done everything right, and I believe that will show on the night.
Your second camp working together, what have you felt have been the key differences that you've noticed between this time that you've had?
I wouldn't say there's differences in terms of what we've been doing, because the way we apply ourselves is always professional. Obviously the difference is that we've had to come away, a training camp over here, but like I say, everything's been taken care of, everything's in the right place, so preparation's gone very, very well.
Heading into this fight, how has Josh come across to yourself? Have you seen the extra determination, the extra motivation within him, or have you just seen the same Josh that you saw when you first linked up?
Yeah, he always trains hard, prepares for every fight like it's his last, and that's the way that it has to be, and that's the way he does it. And I know he knows exactly what he needs to do on the night, and that's the important thing, and that's all clear cut in his mind, and that's the most important thing. And like I say, I believe that'll show on the weekend.
Both Josh and Jose, they're exciting fighters to watch, even for just a neutral or a casual fan. But heading into this, how do you actually expect the fight to play out, Ben? Are you expecting any different from Jose to what we've seen throughout his career?
Fundamentally, it'd be the same. Whether he gets in there on the night and he's a little bit hesitant because of Josh's speed, or whether he tries to force the fight very early, either way, we're prepared for whatever he brings. And like I just said there, Josh knows exactly what he needs to do for whatever Ramirez brings.
What's it like trying to kind of effectively train Josh and to ensure he doesn't get carried away in those spurts, in those moments when Jose does come forward and it might become a situation where it's macho man versus macho man?
It's just about intelligence, again, going back to preparation, experience in terms of him knowing, okay, sometimes he might have learned that through some of his own fights. He might learn that through watching other fights, that picking the right moments of when to have your moments, when to be aggressive, when not to be aggressive, all of those kind of things. So yeah, it boils down to boxing IQ, experience and intelligence.
I just asked Josh, and I'll ask yourself his question as well. I asked him, does he feel like on the inside his work's underrated a little bit? As his trainer, do you feel like it's underrated? Or with Josh's answer was he feels like there's always something that people don't necessarily give him the credit for when it comes to his ability. What do you make of it?
There's always going to be naysayers, there's always going to be people that could have done this, should have done that. But with that comes his fans, as well. So you have to take the good with the bad, the rough with the smooth, and once he achieves what he achieves on Saturday, there's not too much that people can really say, is there? So it's just part of the game, unfortunately.
I know Wilder Fury 1 was a big fight for yourself, but where does this rank? Is this bigger than Wilder Fury 1 for yourself?
Do you know what? People always ask me, like, which fight, this, that and the other, but I very much categorise them separately, because your relationship with each fight, it's not for me, it's for the fighter. So I know what this means to Josh, I know what that fight meant to Tyson, I know what fight meant to Billy Joe, etc, etc. So it's I sort of put them in different categories, if I'm honest. But of course, I know that it doesn't get, like, although that was a heavyweight title fight, massive fight, this is an undisputed fight, massive fight. There's no more prizes that can be on the line. So yeah, I very much categorise them separately, because I very much look at it like my I'm doing it for the fight. It's their achievement, and I just help them along the way.
Success on Saturday night, Ben. The world's Josh's oyster on the back of it. You can look at 147. TV Lopez, who I spoke earlier, Enrique said he'd love to face Josh if he was to be successful. What do you think would be next for him?
Don't really know, but to be honest with you, at the minute, it'd be very, very stupid to look ahead. I think there's a lot of people that underestimate Jose Ramirez, and that's certainly not what we're doing. So, not looking ahead at anything other than Saturday. Life after Saturday doesn't exist.
That's just something I wanted to touch on there. A lot of people are very confident in Josh that he will be successful, not just back in the UK, but out here in America as well. Has it surprised you that maybe Jose is looked at as the underdog boy? What seems to be quite a little bit of a distance?
I wouldn't say surprising. I've said this before. I do believe it depends on how Josh goes about the fight. Depends on how tough the fight is.
Ben, just moving forward, I know you've been out here doing some work with Devin Haney as well. Do you want to just touch on that and kind of your role working with Devin ahead of his bout with Jorge Linares?
Yeah, I met Devin about 2 years ago now in the gym. He was sparring, and to be honest with you, really give it. I think we got talking before he sparred actually. And he really give it to the sparring partners, and I'm quite soft-hearted, so I went over to the sparring partners and said, maybe if you do this, maybe if you do that. And he looked over and said, Coach, can I get some of that work? Come over. Said, what did I think? Gave my opinion. Called his dad over, had a bit of a chat. That was that. And then a couple of messages about working with him we discussed, and obviously I said, I'm coming over to Vegas at this time. Worked out that his fight's the week after, so just been assisting him along with his dad for this Linares fight.
I saw Devin just wanted to clear things up himself and put a little tweet out saying, Bill, his father, is his main trainer, but come fight night, will you be staying out here? Will you be assisting them?
Yeah, I'll stay for the fight, but of course his dad's his head coach, always has been. But not only that, he brought that young man up from very little, 20, won his world title at 20 or 21. And I think it says a lot about Bill, the way that he likes to, and very open to getting information from other guys. Devin's very much the same, to try and make them the best that they can be. So I think it's a very smart approach, and it just goes to show that for Bill it's about his son being the best that he can be. And I know that's the way it is for Devin as well. He's very professional. Everything's about his performance. Very studious, and yeah, I'm very impressed.
Having worked with Devin closely, Ben, there's a lot of excitement about that lightweight division. I know you'd have only been able to watch the other guys, the Teofimos, the Gervonta Davises and what have you, and Ryan Garcia, but where would you kind of say Devin stands in amongst all of them now, having worked with him?
It's hard to say, really. Obviously, he's the WBC world champion, and him and Teofimo would need to fight to make an undisputed fight. But he's got Linares in front of him, and again, it's a tough challenger. He's 22 years old. Linares is a top quality fighter, and you don't know how many top performances he's got left in him. So if he brings his A game, it's a tough fight for anybody. But that's what Devin's preparing for. And you can't look ahead, like I was just saying about Josh. So it's difficult. I think after the fight, that's when you can sort of say, okay, that's where you want to go. But at the minute, his full focus is on Jorge Linares.
Just to touch on that fight with Jorge Linares, Ben. Not a lot of people, I've seen some people over social media maybe suggesting boxing can all be about timing, and with Jorge, is he not that same fighter he once was? If Devin's successful against him, do you think he'd get the credit he deserves for beating somebody who's achieved so much as Jorge Linares, or do you think people will turn around and say it's just not that same fighter that we saw over in the UK against Anthony Crolla twice, against Kevin Mitchell?
We were just talking about it with Josh, wasn't we? There's always going to be people that have something to say, something negative to say. However, at 22 years old, he's beating someone like Jorge Linares, whose skill set is his skill set. So he can only beat what's in front of him. It's a good fight. It seems like the fans think it's a good fight because he's selling out well. So yeah, he's got his job to do, and that's what he's got to do.
And Ben, moving back in time, Canelo Saunders was 2 weeks ago now. Before we come on to the obvious, just want to go back and reflect on the fight, Ben. Now you've had a bit of time to watch it back, reflect. What did you make of Billy Joe's performance against Canelo Alvarez?
Yeah, I felt like he was growing into the fight. Knew that it was important that Billy Joe was efficient, and I felt like there was moments where Canelo was in charge and had his moments, and I felt like there was moments where Billy Joe was in charge and had his moments. Canelo's the pound for pound number one, been boxing and competing against that level of opponents a lot more consistently than Billy Joe. So I feel like he was sharp off the bat. Probably took Billy Joe a couple of rounds to find his feet and get back into it, although I do think Billy Joe won the first. Yeah, it's one of them. I think that it's certainly, the performance certainly showed that he's not out of his league at that level, and I think if the opportunity comes again, it'll make for a great rematch as well.
Do you think, or did you maybe raise questions in your own mind? Let's say if Billy Joe had been able to be more active, but against a top-tier opposition. So the Callum Smith fight was spoken about for a while previously. Let's say if he'd have fought Callum Smith and beaten him, and then he'd beaten, say, a Caleb Plant, or just top-tier fighters. Do you think it could have been a different fight on 2 weeks ago?
Potentially, yeah. I do think that there's an element of, although he'd boxed Martin Murray in the November or the December, of course, that match sharpness at that level definitely helps. Being active and active at a good level definitely does help, yeah.
Now, Ben, onto one of the what's ended up being the awkward laughing coming in. It's been a big talking point over the last week or so. The decision for Billy Joe not to come back out in the 9th round. Now, I've seen your comments in an interview. I've seen Mark Tibbs' most recent video. Can you just clarify from your point of view what actually happened before the 9th round?
Yeah, well, let me firstly go to that clarification video. Clarification video doesn't talk much about what actually happened or what was actually said. It's just talking about me. So there's obviously Mark was upset that there was some input from me now afterwards, and this is the problem when you're working with other coaches and assisting, you get shit like this, to be honest, which I was very aware of. If the fight didn't go as planned, this was probably going to be the outcome. I didn't expect anything different. But Billy Joe's a close friend of mine, and I was approached and asked to assist. And I obliged because he's a close friend of mine. But when the fight was first announced, Billy Joe came to my gym to discuss the fight and asked me about my thoughts on the fight. Why? Because he values my opinion, my knowledge on the game, my knowledge on Canelo. I was then asked and approached to do some sessions when I landed in Vegas with Billy Joe, which I obliged, which Mark was there at the time. I was then asked and obliged to assist in the corner on the night, which obviously here working with Josh, working with Devin, I couldn't fly, do the full fight week, so I flew in the night before. And then on the night, I was assisting in the corner, and there was numerous times that Mark, Ben, what do you think in the corner? So people saying, why was I being vocal in the corner? He asked me, looked at me, what do you think? For me to give my views and give my say in the corner. Then when Billy Joe broke his eye socket, it was quite clear what the injury was. Come up to the corner, and the words that come out of mouth's Mark were, I'm going to give you one more round. Now with a broken eye socket against the pound for pound number one, as Billy Joe's friend, and also as a fellow coach, that wasn't going to happen. So I whispered in Billy Joe's ear, as you can clearly see on the TV, telling him that the fight was going to be pulled. After Billy Joe was asked if he can see out of his eye, he said, "I can't see a thing out of this eye, out of the bad eye." Then confirmed by Jamie Sheldon. Then Mark waved the fight off. The reason people saying, why was you whispering in the fighter's ear? The reason I whispered in the fighter's ear because the fighter needed telling that the fight was going to be pulled. Whether Mark was saying, I'm going to give you one more round to check his reaction. In my opinion, the fighter shouldn't be put in a position like that with an injury like that. Someone has to take the ball by the horns. Whether it was my role or not role as assisting in the corner to do that or not, it was the right decision. Would you agree? Would you agree? Did the fight need to pull?
At that stage, having seen the injury, yeah, I would probably say so, yeah.
And I think everybody else would agree. So anybody that thinks different, I couldn't care less. I've been thanked by Billy Joe himself. Billy Joe put a statement out to say Ben got the corner to pull it. I didn't tell Mark to pull the fight, obviously, but I think what he means by that is he sensed hesitation in Mark, whereas I was straight to the point and told him that the fight was going to be pulled. That's the reason why he shook his head, because I told him that the fight was going to be pulled. Usually when you're shaking your head, that's a sign of saying no, correct?
Yep.
So when being told that the fight's going to be pulled, he shook his head. So his body language was to say, no, don't pull the fight. Yeah? Because any fighter's doesn't want to be pulled out of the fight. Deep down he probably knew it was the right decision. I know that after the doctor examined him, it was definitely the right decision. And that's that. The reality is this, yeah? There's 3 other people in that corner, including outside of Mark. There's Jamie Sheldon, there's Billy Joe, the fighter, and Amir Khan from Sheffield Ingle Gym. There's no praise to be won here out of a loss. Who pulled the fight, who got the fight to be pulled. There's no praise in that. It doesn't matter. I don't care. Mark waved his arms. Mark waved his arms to tell the referee. So there's no... Billy Joe was the one that said Ben got the corner to pull it. I think what he meant by that was what I said there, that I was quite straight to the point. The fight's getting pulled. There's no victory in me to say so and so pulled the fight. So and so pulled the fight. Everybody probably played their part, including Jamie Sheldon, assessing the injury, played a part in the fight getting pulled. That's what a corner team are for. It's just a shame that stupid video has been put up on Twitter, because it didn't need to go to that. Interviews shouldn't have been done straight after the fight, in my opinion. And just to clear that up as well, because I'm getting stick saying Ben and MTK have worked together to have these videos taken, the interview taken down, then Ben's done one saying something different. No, Mark asked for the videos and interviews to be taken down, because I don't think any of the team or family was happy that an interview was done straight after the fight. Whilst Billy Joe's in the hospital. But none of this, it shouldn't get to this having to be said. Unfortunately, I've been put under an attack. Yeah? And I've had to say my point and the reality of what actually happened. Now, what I've gave you there is dialogue of what actually happened and what actually was said. That's actual facts that everybody else can confirm in that corner. But it shouldn't get to this point for this to happen. It's unprofessional. And that's the last thing I'm going to say on it. Because, 1, I don't want to keep going over it. And 2, I'm going into an undisputed title fight with Josh Taylor this week. And I need to be professional and focus on that. So that's the last I'm going to say on it. But it's just a shame that it got to this silly point. But like I say, there's other people there that can confirm what was and wasn't said. Why I was having a say in the corner. And that can come from Jamie Sheldon, Billy Joe and Amir Khan, to confirm what I've just said.
I'm not going to dwell on it, Ben. The only one thing I want to ask is, has it surprised you by the reaction by the public to it all?
Yeah, Billy Joe's a character, isn't he? Billy Joe's a character, and they want to see people fall. However, he's not in terrible spirits. He knows that he was in the fight and didn't feel out of place. Probably knows that, like you say, could have probably gone into the fight slightly better, a bit more consistency at that level. And I think he seems keen, like he wants to come again. So, like I say, I don't want to dwell on it. It's unfortunate that this conversation has carried on. I put a tweet out to say, let the fighter clarify. I deleted it because it's unprofessional, and like I say, my focus needs to be on fight week coming up. But I'm sure the fighter will clarify whatever. But like I say, there's nothing to be gained by anybody out of the situation. It was a loss at the end of the day. So all I'm saying, and the reason I've given what I've just said there, is because it's important that people understand that Billy Joe did not quit. He was pulled out of the fight. And the shaking the head was because I'd whispered in his ear to say the fight's being pulled, and I've just given you my reason why I whispered in his ear to say that to him.
It's just on Billy Joe, Ben. How is he doing now?
He sounds okay. I think he's gonna put something out at the end of the week. Probably do an interview, probably with Coogan. But he seems okay. You know, he's obviously in the recovery stage. He's flown home. Surgery went well. So yeah, just have to see. Time is a healer.
Just away from all of that, Ben, just a couple of things I want to touch on. When I saw you at the gym with Devin the other day, I walked in to see the final few rounds of Lee McGregor doing some brilliant sparring with Angelo Leo. Talk to me about Lee and your work together with him, and how impressed have you been with him so far?
Yeah, he's a top fighter, Lee, a top lad as well. Mature, got a young family. Fantastic sparring with Angelo Leo, who's a top little fighter as well. And there's big things coming for Lee. The quickest ever, I believe. Don't hold me to it. I think that's correct. To win the British Commonwealth and European titles. Done it in spectacular fashion with a first-round stoppage of Karen Murphy, a proper solid European level fighter. I think he's 3 or 4-time European champion. And he's only getting better. He's hungry, motivated, becoming more knowledgeable on the sport. His boxing IQ, performance, nutrition, rest, recovery, all of these things. So I believe that the last fight showed a massive improvement. I believe that you'll keep seeing that. However, let's be realistic. You know, he's had 10 fights. You don't want to be rushing him. With the right fight, could he win a world title now? Yes, with the right fight. Would he maintain and hold the world title? Right now, maybe not. Maybe a little bit more experience. Obviously, there's been a big adjustment to his style, which big credit goes to Lee Wiley there. And so I think it'd be good to see him get a few rounds out with, you know, obviously the intention was thinking that it would go a few rounds last time out, but it didn't. So I think that's an important thing. And to have someone that's going to ask questions back, which we thought that Murphy would, someone at that level. But it's just about him picking up more experience, more ring time, and the rest of it will follow naturally.
It is hard when Lee produces a performance like that, or when any fighter does, for fans not to get a little bit excited or start thinking about what could be next. But I spoke to Lee in the gym while she was working with Devin, and he said that unless it was a world title fight, he would revisit the For Rook rematch. Would that be along the lines of what you'd be considering?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm being completely honest, it would be a shame if them two had to fight without a world title on the line, because I think that fight could be made with a world title on the line. But like you say, for where Lee's at, we don't want to rush him into anything. And if the money makes sense, then the fight will make sense for Lee as well, because I'm sure cash will bring that type of challenge that we're looking for. So, yeah, of course, that makes sense. And Cash is a top little fighter as well.
I mean, coming on to somebody else you know very well, Tyson Fury. We saw a little video he put out earlier saying that AJ fight is on Saudi Arabia August 14th. Ben, is it on?
From my knowledge, yeah. That's from my knowledge, it's on. I'm not confirming that, by the way. I mean, I can't say that, but from what it seems like to me, and spoke to a few people, that's what it sounds like. So,
for somebody who's so as close as what you are with Tyson, how has he found kind of dealing with it's on, it's off, it's we're in talks, we're not in talks. How's Tyson dealt with it all to this
I
point?
think you can see through his Instagram, can't you? He's just been having fun, been training. So yeah, he's been training hard, but then enjoying himself outside of it as well. So now that obviously it seems like the fight's confirmed, I'll imagine he'll knuckle down a little bit more. What are we in May, June, July, August? You know, so he's looking at around the 13, 14 week mark at the minute, isn't he? So yeah, I suppose a few more weeks and he'll really start tightening the ship and get his full team together.
Provided that fight is definitely 100%, I think people are still just kind of waiting for the official confirmation. But when or if that comes, how big is that fight just for boxing in general, Ben, to give it another boost on the back of a pandemic, to get everybody's eyes back on the sport?
Oh, it's a mega fight. It's something special, of course it is. That's why I've been talking about it for so long. It was a mega fight before Tyson dethroned Deontay Wilder. So look at it now. It's an undisputed heavyweight world title fight with an all-British heavyweight undisputed world title fight. So hoping that the fans can travel over. I know I'll certainly like to go. So yes, it's a mega fight, and opportunities, fights, events like that do end up having a positive effect down the line for boxing as well. So that's a positive as well.
Right, Ben, we will leave that there now, and I'll leave you to enjoy the rest of your day in this beautiful weather. I will see you in the week, I'm sure, during the fight week bubble. I appreciate your time today, and thank you for speaking to Boxing Social.
Anytime.